three people?
Yes.
Okay. You guys are all set.
Okay.
Just a few things before you guys get started. If you do need restrooms at any point in time, they're inside the gift shop towards the right at the end of the hallway. If you do plan on going inside our nocturnal building, masks are going to be required inside. They're optional everywhere else. You're free to take from this pile, or if you have your own, you're free to use those. It is a self-guided tour, so you're free to walk the available space as much as you'd like. We only ask that you stay on the sidewalk, follow the signs, and then there are going to be people around to redirect you.
Oh, okay. So we can just start.
Yeah. Tour path is open. You can make your way down that sidewalk.
Okay, let me
Thank you.
No problem.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Science is staying true that after 20 to 25 they don't tend to grow. So if you want to come up and see the sign, so you can see the pictures. So this is Madagascar, and as we said, all the lemurs in the world are indigenous or native to Madagascar and no place else. On Madagascar, there are over 100 different species of lemurs, and most of them are what we call ephemeral, which means that a lemur that's diurnal, awake during the day, hunting during the day, when food gets scarce or the weather gets bad, they can actually change their behavior and they start sleeping during the day and becoming nocturnal. The lemurs that you're going to see in this building are only nocturnal all the time, and you're going to see 3 of them. The first is the fat-tailed dwarf lemur, which does not sound like a very nice name, but there's a reason for it. The fat-tailed dwarf lemur is the only primate that hibernates. A lot of animals go into torpor, which is when their body kind of shuts down, but if you do it the same time every year, and if you do it for 2 to 3 weeks at least, or even longer, then it's called hibernation. So when these guys go into torpor or hibernation, their heart rate goes from around 300 beats a minute to 8 to 10.
Wow.
They have, I love the way they say this, they have a breathing event every 5 to 10 minutes, and their brain activity is not detectable.
Wow.
So because their body is shut down, that means it's not functioning. So they have to come out of torpor every 10 days or so their body can take care of all functions and so they can sleep, because they're not sleeping when they're hibernating. So any animal that hibernates that we all learned, it goes into a cave and sleeps for 4 months. No, it's actually on a roller coaster of in and out of torpor, and it's only sleeping when it's out of torpor. So a lot of research is being done on hibernation with these guys here. We have special cages. It's called a hibernactium, I think is what it's called. But we have special cages that have sensors so that we can watch them and we can tell when they're moving. And the reason scientists are so interested in their hibernation patterns is looking at how it can be applied to space travel. Because they are a primate, as we are, it's possible that we can use some of that knowledge. So about 3 weeks before they go into torpor or hibernation, they eat every piece of fruit that has high sugar, every flower, every vegetable with high sugar, and they almost double their body weight. And all the weight goes, or pretty much all the weight goes into the tail. Hence, fat-tailed dwarf lemurs. Dry season in Madagascar is comparable to our winter. So the lemurs we're going to see today have come out of hibernation, so their tails are pretty thin. But if you were to come back in October and November when they're starting to bulk up, you would see how fat it's getting. So they're fruit, vegetable eaters. They will eat an insect if they have to, but they'd rather not. These guys, the other lemur you're going to see is the gray mouse lemur. And at 3 inches minus the tail, it is the second smallest lemur. The Madame Bertha lemur is 2 inches minus the tail.
Wow.
It's cute, it's furry, it is loaded with bad attitude. Okay, one of the meanest, toughest lemurs around. You do not want to meet them on a dark path. They are insect and small amphibian eaters. They will eat a plant or veg if it's necessary. What's also interesting about the gray mouse lemur is that on those little bitty lemur legs, it can run almost 20 miles an hour.
Wow.
Which is the same distance that, or the same speed that the average dog can run.
Wow.
So imagine if you're this dog and you're sitting there pumping out, your legs are this long, and you're going as fast as you possibly can, and you look down and there's a little mouse lemur kicking. And with their attitude, probably laughing at you the whole time. The third animal you're going to see is not a lemur, but it has a common ancestor. It lives in the southern part of Africa, and it is the Moho bush baby. It got its name because out in the wild, its cry sounds like a baby crying. The Moho bush baby is an insect eater as well as like the gray mouse lemur, but it also has a very, very narrow tongue because it eats sap and gum from trees. To be able to go from tree to tree, it can jump up to 6 feet.
Wow.
It also has a very endearing habit that it pees on its hands and feet. And scientists are thinking because that makes it stickier, so when they make those long jumps, they're able to hold on. Don't try that. Very practical, but not very loving. So we're going to go down to the next side.
Depending on the volume, it could just be a contact call saying, "Where are you? I've lost you. I want you to come back." Or it could be, "I've seen something really scary, and we better all, be paying very close attention."
So these are blue-eyed black lemurs. These lemurs are sexually dichromatic, which means that you can tell them apart.
We can scan them, but you have to be within a certain distance to do that, and they don't always want us that close.
If you hear something being loud at the Lemur Center, it's either these guys or their cousins up in the midway.
Nothing is done, they could be sleeping around. It's hard for them to study them in the wild, people can't. It's hard to find. But we have 6 green
And then they start with the real one, and then they still the story about how they live, and then what interesting facts about it. And then they have, for fun, they have a kind of coin that made it dip.
Resemble a lemur or a mongoose. And Carolina is the lemur of the summer for the Adopt a Lemur program. If you adopt a lemur,
Digest them completely undamaged, and 2 to 3 hours later, they can excrete them as fully fertilized seed packages around the rainforest, which is terrific for the environment. So Hunter's actually a decade older than me, but he in fact is not the oldest lemur that we've had here. The oldest lemur that we had was another decade older than him, and she was also a red ruff.
What's your name?
that's Persephone.
Wow.
Oh, guys. Well, she is named after the Greek goddess. I don't know. I think he's got a Greek name. But the written tales for a while it was Greek.
They share, and who's in charge of figuring out disputes and things like that. It's
So we've got two crown lemurs in here. This is Chesmu and Nejeb. They're being absolutely adorable as usual. These guys are named after Egyptian mythology. Chesmu is big brother and he's 6, and Nejeb's baby brother and he's 4. So this lovely rear end right here is Chesmu, and then that head / side is Nejeb. Chesmu's really got some kind of weird positioning.
What's going on with the tail right there?
So that is just a tail shave. Nejem's a pretty well-behaved lemur, so if he gets some dried cranberries, he's willing to sit for a couple minutes, and the keepers will just go in with some clippers and shave that middle part of the tail. It's just the way when we have pairs or groups like this.
some of the other species do.
Oh yeah. The other members of their species will go on the ground. These guys are the same as Ari and Moshi, who are in that first enclosure on the D-wing. They have no problems being on the ground. If they drop something, they'll go get it. These two absolutely refuse. Will not do it. Yeah, these guys are funny little things.
Do they have a thumb?
So they don't have true opposable thumbs like we do or like chimpanzees do. They have what's called a pseudo opposable thumb. So it's like the same kind of general hand shape, but they don't have the same dexterity that we do with our hands. These guys are a fairly old primate group and fairly far removed from us. So you can kind of see where these traits have started to evolve.
Fun fact. These are the ones on the ground.
I know, it's so cute.
The inoculations.
Look, it's the fourth largest animal.
So how far is it straight? So that was the Lemur Centre. Amazing.